Hi, I'm a data analyst at Netflix, and today I'm presenting a data-driven approach to understanding one of the biggest challenges of our company faced in Q1 2022, the subscriber churn. In April, Netflix reported losing 200,000 subscribers in a single quarter. The first subscriber decline in over a decade. The company also focused on losing another 2 million in Q2, causing the stock to drop more than 35% in a single overnight. So based on the earning report, I ended with 4 key business challenges. First is password sharing. Second is intensified competition. And then is price sensitivity and also the regional imbalance. So I translate these challenges into following data-driven business problems. That is, what user behavior and demographic patterns are associated with the subscriber churn, and what strategy can Netflix adopt to reduce subscriber loss. Target variable is churn, a binary yes or no label. The key stakeholders are Netflix product, content, pricing, and the regional growth team. So to address the problem, ISO Netflix user behavior dataset, a publicly available dataset of 15,000 users across 20 variables. Every user demographic includes age, gender, country, subscription details like tier and monthly fee, behavioral metrics such as the watch time, sessional per week, completion rate, and days since the last login, favorite genre, and crucially, the churn label. This dataset is well suited to a assignment because it directly measures the churn risk alongside this exact variable cited in Netflix Q1 2022 report. An important caveat I've returned to is this appears to be a statistical generated dataset, meaning that the churn was aligned in a statistical balanced way rather than behavior for real behavior. Address this meaning for our findings. So let's come to the data cleaning and preposition. So the dataset required minimal cleaning. A full missing value check from 0 now across the 20 columns and a duplicate check from non-replaced records. For outliers, and random box plot across key numerical variables, age, watch time, sponsor, session per week, complete rate, and date since the last login. All values fell within the plausible rewarded range, so no record were removed. And also, by engineering 3 new features to enrich the analysis. Age group, which is binds user into the 5 demographic cohorts. Tenure group, which group account age into 5 bands from the new rating to long-term subscribers. And a composite engagement score, combining normalized watch time, session, completion rate, and recommendation click rate into a single metric. And then come to our EDA and key findings. So we have in total 10 graphs, 10 figures. So here's our first graph. Shows an overall churn rate of 19.9%. 9,964 out of 50,000 users canceled. That's roughly 1 in 5 users. And Netflix real scale of 220 million subscribers, a single rate would lose or 44 million churned users annually, making it a critical business problem. Figure 2 examines the churn by subscription tier and monthly fee. Premier subscriber churn most at 20.4%, volume by standard 20.1, and basic 19.2. The difference are modest, but the direction is clear. Higher paying subscribers are marginally more likely to leave. This is consistent with the price sensitivity narrative in Q1 2022 report. The figure 3 is the regional churn. It shows by country. Australia topped the list at 21%, followed by Japan 20.8, India at 20.3, France at 20.2. USA has the lowest churn rate at 19.2. Notably, Australia and Japan are Asian Pacific markets. In one region that will grow in Q1 2022, showing that even growing regions have meaningful churn risk that cannot be overlooked. For figure 4 and 9, we'll combine together. Figure 4 combines the engagement distribution between the churn and retained user across watch time, session per week, completion rate, and days since the last login. The distribution overlap almost entirely. This is confirmed by figure 9. It switches a correlated heat map, and no correlation between numerical values and churn are essentially zero. This is the most important artifact analytic findings. To confirm that this is a significant data set where churn or randomness are not driven by behavior. In real network data, we would expect engagement metrics to be strong churn predictor. I will factor this into my insights. So for figure 5, 6, 7, 8 are segment analysis. Figure 5, so they examine churn across device use, demographic, account tenure, and genre. Key pattern is user on 3 device churn marginally more at 20% versus 19.8 for single device users. The 35 to 44 age group had the highest churn rate at 20.7. Non-terminal user of 33 plus months churn at least 19.5 versus 20.4 for user in their first months. And by genre, studio fund churned most at 20.5, while action fund churned least. So here come to the figure 10. Finally, it shows the composite engagement score for churn versus retained user. The box and the onion plots are nearly identical, reinforce that no single dimension separate churn from retained user in this data set. So now comes to the insights. Insight 1, introduce an 8 supported tier. Primary supported churn most, and for the Q1 report, it's been cite the price increase as a driven for the lows in the US and Canada. The low cost 8 supported tier, which Netflix announced it will was exploring in price sensitive user an alternative and sort of online. Insight 2 is redesigned early onboarding. Using their first 6 months churn higher than the long-term user. The first 30 days are critical. Netflix should invest in personal welcome playlist, early engagement, and reactivation promote for users who go inactive within their first week. Insight 3 is presenting the drama and action content. Drama and action fan churn least, while thriller horror fan churn the most. Drama and action genre typically feature long multi-session serial and create autonomous viewing habits. Separating photo characters over time are less inclined to cancel. Insight 4 is manage password sharing gradually. Multi-device user churn marginally more, but a hard crack risk alternative current plays some role. A smart approach to offering a discounted as on portfolio for extra household. Converting non-pay shares into revenue without churning existing customer. Insight 5 is investing in local content for high churn market. Australia and Japan shows the higher churn rate. Both are markets with Netflix has to deepen local content investment. Korean language oriented provide high efficiency and driven Asia Pacific growth. The same strategy applied to Australia and Japan for now to replicate the success. So, to close, Netflix entered 2022 facing its most serious challenge in over a decade. Roughly through analysis of the 50,000 users, I identified that while engagement metrics are broadly similar across churn and retained user in the dataset, directional pattern across pricing, tenure, genre, and regional consistently point to the same dynamic story. Netflix needs a multi-front retention strategy, not a single fix. The 5 insights I present: a low-cost tier, better onboarding, retaining friendly content, and smart password sharing response, and regional content investment on a coherent data-driven road, and database skills, reducing churn by even 1% translate to billions in recurring annual revenue. Thank you.